because just please bear with me 2 minutes, team. So we are going to live stream this session in YouTube also. That's one thing I'm checking. Just please bear with me 1 minute. All right, everything is set. Let me share my screen again. Just one request, Mogadeshwan, can you please confirm our session is streaming in YouTube also?
Give a second, Super.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, that's fine. You can check and let me know in the chat box. So meantime, let's get started. Everyone is waiting. Okay, so welcome you all. Welcome you all. So thanks for joining today's session. So let's, just a minute. So let me talk about NextGen Data Aspirants Community. So on the screen, you are seeing two faces. One is me. My name is Intur Suparna Babu. You all can call me as a Babu or Suparna, whichever you like. I'm the creator of this NextGen Data Aspirants Community. Currently, I am working as a data engineering specialist in one of the Indian MNC. And currently, I am a Microsoft Fabric community super user where I am writing a lot of blogs and providing solutions in the Fabric community. And also, I am running my own YouTube channel, which is same name, NextGen Data Aspirants Community, where you will get a lot of technical content in terms of Power BI, Fabric, and data engineering. Ajay, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Suparna. Hi, everyone. My name is Ajay Babu Inturi. I'm working as assistant manager, and I do have a experience of 6+ years in the data and analytics. Yeah, thank you, Suparna.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thanks for that. Now, before jumping into the today's session, so for today's session, the title partner is Microsoft, and event sponsor would be the KSR Data Vision. So don't miss the session. So please wait till end of the session. At the end of the session, based on the topics which is demonstrated by our speaker, we will have a quiz. So those who are winners of the quiz, when I say I will take top 3 people, so for them, KSR Data Vision is providing Clear My Interview tool, which is cost around 1999. So it will help you to practice your interviews with the help of, there is a special tool they developed. With the help of this Clear My Interview tool, you can practice as much as time and you can clear the interviews. So you will get a real-time interview experience with this tool. So my kind request is please stay till end of the session. At the end of the session, we will have a quiz. Fine. Now, before handing over the session to our speaker, so there are few session guidelines. So I would request everyone, please be on mute. And if you have any questions, please share your questions in the chat box. Please park your questions till at the end of the session. And our speaker, and if any questions is there related to any fabric or something, I will be also helping you to answer all of your questions. So please be on mute. That is my kind request. Now let's welcome our today's speaker, Anusha. So Anusha, welcome you. Now the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Aparna. Hey guys, very good evening to everyone. Thanks for joining this session, and I hope that it is fruitful for you. So, as the title suggests, we are going to discuss about RLS and Power BI, and I hope that people who have joined today's session must already be familiar with what Power BI is, right? So, this session I've designed in such a way that it can cater to the people who are new and learning, the newbies to Power BI, as well as the expert level, where at the end we will talk about the different actual business case scenarios that come up for the RLS implementation. So let's move ahead. I'm quickly sharing my screen. Do let me know once it is visible. So before that, I would also want to share my LinkedIn ID. So you guys can follow me and also ask any questions that you may have during or after the session as well. Feel free to connect. Hope my screen is visible. Can you confirm, Suparna?
Yes.
Thank you. So hi guys. So the simplistic way of understanding what a row-level security really means is that we all work in corporate offices, right? Or about to, for people who are, yet to graduate. So we all get our ID cards, right? So imagine that you walked into your corporate building and then you have like 13, 14 floors of floors and around say 60 to 70 odd rooms. So I like me and Suparna, we imagine that me and Suparna and Ajay, we are just coming into the room, like coming into the office in the morning, and I am trying to swipe the ID card in say room number one, but it doesn't swipe. I don't get an entry to it. While Suparna tries and it's his office and he's able to walk through the door as he has got access to that particular room. And so does Ajay. While I do try and swipe in each and every room that I want to going here and there like a rat, but still I wouldn't be able to do it because I don't have access to the rooms, and I will only be able to access the room for which I have the access to. Correct. So that this ID access mechanism that you see in our everyday corporate lives, when we relate it to RLS, it's basically the same. So imagine these several rooms of the organization as several data layers or data pockets or say databases as well. I mean, different kinds of data that is available. So for a CEO, probably a CEO will have access to all the rooms of the building, right? So he must probably, we may give him access to all the data that's present in our model. But for a beginner, like for example, say Ajay is currently working in say a region called Andhra Pradesh, and he is supposed to get, I mean, he should access only his room, as in only Andhra Pradesh's data. That is where row level security comes in. So when we talk about row level, just a second. Yeah, if we go to the core concept of RLS, what does RLS really do? RLS controls the data access. And how does it control? By understanding who the user is. So if that user is say HR, he should only be able to see his HR related data. And say if the Power BI report is a performance dashboard where people are trying to grade give ratings to a particular employee, then obviously that should belong to only HR, and none of the other members of the organization should be able to view it, right? So the entire concept of RLS is designed on what data has to be accessed, has to be given access to which person of the organization. Now, when we come to implementation methods, there are obviously a lot of implementation methods that are possible. Of course, not too many. There are like 4 to 5 use cases that can be, 4 to 5 implementation methods, but a bunch of several use cases can be developed based on those 4 to 5 use cases. And then, of course, the most advantage that we get of RLS is because the RLS supports the compliance with regulations. Like, because we have for FMCG companies or for say banker related or insurance related companies where the data governance is strictly in place, those kind of organizations will require RLS for achieving their compliance in these kind of regulations. Of course, the benefits of RLS would be to reduce the data exposure risk, like you only get to see what you have to see and nothing else. Also, it simplifies the report maintenance and gives an overall experience with regards to hierarchy, which we will be discussing it shortly. As I mentioned, why do we, so the question when we understand what an RLS is, the next question that comes up is, why do we require it? Yeah, we require it what? We require it for the regulatory purposes, we require it for the enhanced user experiences. We also want it, we also require it for protecting our data. That's by preventing the data leakage. So let's move on to the types of RLS. We'll try to keep this session more of a demo session where we'll walk into the practicality directly. So the first RLS, the first simplest RLS that is available in Power BI in Fabric. Guys, anyone who wants to message who wants to answer can message in the chat. I'll wait for a second. The basic RLS definition that usually comes up when you go through the topics of RLS. Anyone? Of course,
Can I
yeah.
speak
Static. Yeah, I think, yeah, we all can message in the group. Yeah, the first one that is answered. Yeah, I know there are many static, dynamic. Yes, we'll be coming to it one by one. Well, the first basic thing is, of course, static RLS. So this meeting, I have planned it in such a way that we'll first go through the basics, understand what RLS really is, understand what static RLS is, then we'll move on to dynamic, and also move on to several types of dynamic RLS based on the use case scenarios we get. So the first demo that we are going to look at is the static RLS. So what does really static RLS mean? So basically, when we talk about row-level security, we try to understand in terms of user perspective, right? Like what user should be having access to what data, as the same sentence I've been repeating since the meeting has started. So when it comes to static, it's like once you assign the person the definition of an RLS, he will only be related. The definition is static, so there's no change that's going to come up over there. For example, let's understand the the data that is present in this PBX file on which we will be doing a static RLS. So in the data model, I have let's consider only two tables here when we are discussing this. One is a dimensional role and the other is a fact table. So in my fact table, I have sales amount, I have quantity, product, etc. I also have user ID. Let me just pull up some columns here. I hope the text is clear, right? It's too big. Let's first understand the data model that's present here. So we have a dimension table, we have a fact table, and the relationship that we have between both these tables is something called user ID. So again, a person over here. So in order to create the first RLS, let's try to do it in terms of region. Let's try to filter this RLS and understand how a static RLS can work. For this, I will be going to the modeling. I will be selecting manage roles. And okay, I do have some things that I've created, but still I will be going with the new one for this demo. Let's name it as static RLS East. So when, as you can see, for the beginners, in the static RLS, when we open this window, we can see that it is listing out all the tables that are present in the Power BI report, be it a semantic model, be it an import mode, or be it the direct, whatever data tables that have been considered in this Power BI report, all will be coming up here. And also, it's a common knowledge that we all should have is that we create RLS on dimension tables. We prefer, while we can create RLS on fact tables, we prefer not to, because usually the fact tables are huge. And also it's the Power BI community itself, the Microsoft itself recommends that you create the dimension, the RLS on dimensions. So here we have our role as dim role, right? The table is dim role. So what we are going to do here is we'll keep this simply the region as East. So let's see what happens. Let me pull the region column here, first of all. So as you can see in my screen right now, there is relationship between two tables, that is my dim role and fact table. And on it, there is a 1:many relationship that we have created. And I have pulled few columns from the fact table and the region column from the dim role table. Right now, what I will do in order to test whether our RLS is working properly or not, Power BI gives us an option called View As. So because when you are a developer and you work on building these RLS definitions and you actually want to test it, like me being me working on single ID, I want to test someone who is a part of the organization but doesn't even belong to my team, and I don't know. I am not sure whether his data is valid or not unless I test it, right? So for this, there's an option called View As. So in the roles, we have several whatever roles that I have created before are coming up here. So I'll just click on the static RLSs that I have created just now. So as you can see, it's a very straightforward approach. The region has been filtered by East, right? Excuse me, can you give me a second?
Team, please wait 1 minute, maybe.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry for the small interruption. I just had some water. Yeah. So as you can see here, our RLS has been very easily filtered based on the region called East. Now, in the static RLS itself, there are several variations, guys. And how is that? Is like we can go to the manage roles again. Okay, let's stop viewing this first of all. We'll go to manage roles and then say create another role. Rename this as static RLS, say East, and okay, I do not know the city right now. Just let me look at what other filter I can give you. So what do we have here? Okay, we have something called role, right? So let's provide RLS on basis of both region and role. For this, I'll rename this as we have static East and some role. Let's see what roles are available here. Yeah, we can take IT. So again, I'm going to consider the dimension table here. It's very important that when we are actually using this, we should always, because while RLS seems to be easy to understand, during the implementation, it's very important on how the relationships are present between each of the table, whether it is 1:1, 1:many, many:1, and on what kind of table are you actually implementing the RLS. That makes a huge difference on whether your approach is correct or not. So here I'll be selecting the new rule. So I'll select East here. Since I have one more rule that I want to apply for this role, I'll be selecting new. And here I'll be selecting role, again equals IT. Now, Power BI gives us several options where this condition can not just be equal, it can be whatever options that you see on the screen right now. So I'll click on East and IT and I'll click on Save. Let's see how our managed roles is working for this particular function. So we'll go to view as again, and over here we will select the static RLS region role that we've just created. Okay, let me, I don't think I have saved the previous one. Let me just go back and check. Okay, I don't think I have saved the previous one, but as you can see, there's one more role that is already present, which is again in the same manner that we had created before, where we have given the region as West and the role as HR. So obviously our data should be filtered, and that is how it is being filtered, through West and through HR, right? So this completes like about two cases of our two use cases of a static RLS. But to be very frank, this kind of RLS is very rarely used when it comes to the real business scenarios, because the actual business use cases demand a lot of human intervention in terms of the productivity that comes up in the organization, right? So while we are doing this in basis of region and role, people want to have it in terms of the actual user who is going to come up and see, like, for this user, what is the data that has to be visible? So in that case, as we do not know at this point which user will be coming to look at this report, what we do, we'll move on to the third topic for this meeting, that is the dynamic RLS. We'll first go through the basic dynamic RLS and then walk through the different variations of the dynamic RLS that can be implemented. So I'll stop viewing for here. So as I mentioned to you, when we work on dynamic RLS, we need the email ID or the user ID of the user, of every user, basically, whoever we want to give access to. So in that case, now, how do you identify, I mean, how does the Power BI identify which user ID is coming into? And whether that user ID, you know, how does it know that this itself is something called a user ID? For that, we have two functions in Power BI, which are called user principal name and username. So the user principal name is usually the email ID of the organization, email ID of that person belonging to that organization. For example, if you're working in Microsoft, it could be like anusha.gudapati@microsoft.com. That will be the username. And user principal name. And username could be some domain name that is existing in the organization. For example, it could be Microsoft / some employee, right? So those kind of scenarios will come up in username, while the most widely used is your user principal name. So let's go to the data modeling. And for this, I'm going to delete this relationship, and we will be discussing on only two tables right now for our dynamic RLS. So as you can see, I have my fact table. I have my fact table intact over here, and I have my user mapping table where I have a user ID. So if I'm a person, my entire details so all the employee details who have to be in the RLS should be present in this user mapping table. So whether it's me, Anusha, or say Ajay, or anyone who is there in the organization, all data should be present here. So what we'll do first is since we want our fact table to filter out based on the user ID, like Anusha needs to see only Anusha's data, I'll have to create a relationship between these two tables, right? Obviously. So let's go to manage relationships and create a new relationship. And that would be on a basis of our fact table and our user mapping table on the basis of user ID being a many-to-one relationship. So once the user ID is created, the relationship is created, let's go to manage roles and click on a new role, call it dynamic RLS 1. So again, the RLS has to be mapped against the user mapping. So what we do here, we'll go to the DAX, the rule definition, and here mention the user principal name. Actually, let's go to this. Let's go to switch default editor, where it's more better, because sometimes these quotation marks may not be rightly coming up in your definition. Okay, here you go. So our definition is done. Let's go and try test it here. So in order to test this, let me open the report, go to a new page, and first try to get some user ID out of it, because I do not know what all IDs are present in this table right now. Okay, so let's just drag all the email IDs and then drag the sales amount, quantity, product, these definitions from the fact table. So as you can see, at the present moment, we have all the email IDs present here. So I will be going to the view as option and then go to the dynamic RLS one, which we have created. Here, we just by selecting the dynamic RLS will not do, because we have to tell the Power BI that in the dynamic RLS, what is the user that I want to test against. So for that, I'll have to double check on other user. And over here, I'll have to mention the email ID. So it's Amit. Let's take up 𝐒𝐒𝐞𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐜@company.com. Let's see what happens. Ideally, only his data should come up. So as you see, our RLS is working fine, and only the Amit Patil's ID is coming up. His data is only coming up here, successfully implementing the RLS process, right? So sometimes the common issues that may come up here is sometimes is when the email is not email, maybe in say small letters or capital letters, or may, because see, sometimes although it looks a bit straightforward, in the real case scenarios, in the email column present in the table may have some spaces on the left, on the right, may have some say blank field values. So those kind of things have to be corrected here. Probably you can apply a left trim, right trim. You can do the uppercase on both sides in order to ensure that this email ID matches to some user principal name, right? So that is our third definition. Now, coming to the fourth, I hope guys, you are clear on this right now. You can give me a thumbs up, and then we can proceed to move forward. If any questions, welcome to take.
Anusha, just a minute. There are
Yeah.
a few questions in the chat. Nagireddy asking, I have one user, or else you can read it. Nagireddy,
Yeah,
there is a
okay.
question from.
I have one user. That user access for multiple products. It is difficult to create a role for multiple products. How do we achieve this? So you are saying that. Okay, so this particular use case, Nagireddy, we are actually going to discuss at the end. So I'll just park this for now, but we're going to have a discussion on that for sure. So I'll move on to the next topic, guys. It's like the most, again,
Hi, Anusha.
this, yeah, hi.
Yes, please.
Hi, Shahid. Yeah, Basha.
Anusha, I have a query. So how can we apply a path and path contain in RLS?
Yeah, that is the next topic we are moving to on right now, Basha.
Okay.
Your question will be answered.
Yeah.
So the first three approaches are the most straightforward approaches, right? So when we go to expert level, as in the real business case scenarios that will come up when you are or going to work in an organization is, all the organizations will have a certain hierarchical order. Like for example, I may be a sales manager. On top of me, there would be a senior manager. On top of me, there could be a regional manager, and on top of that could be a zonal manager and say a state, an entire regional manager and some zonal manager. So in every, imagine that imagine that there's a company which is say selling soaps. So in order to sell soaps, we'll have a sales team, right? So the sales team will be sitting across the company. So for say, if there are 100 sales employees, these all actually are in a hierarchy. Like there are 5 sales employees sitting in Andhra Pradesh who is under say a particular region called, there's a set of five people sitting in Andhra Pradesh, 5 people sitting in Kerala. So the entire south region, there will be one head and these 10 people will be under him. Correct? And then south plus east could be a northeast zone that may come in. South plus east could be a southeast zone that can come up, and there will be a head for that. So this is like an entirely hierarchical approach where you'll have an employee and you'll also have his manager. So in that kind of data, what do user really want to see? Basha, for example, when you are actually questioning me how to use path ID and whatever path contains that you are mentioning, you'll first have to understand. We all have to first understand what business case scenarios will actually lead you to this path. So this kind of setups where you have a person with his manager data, those all can be a good use case for this using this functionality. I think someone is on unmuted. Could you please mute? Yeah, thank you guys. So Basha, for that, yeah, let's move on to the RLS demo. So what I'm mentioning over here is, imagine the first understand the data. So in this data, what I have is like an employee ID and a manager ID. So that means if I am an employee, my manager ID is also against me. And uska manager ID, I mean, that particular manager, say A, is again in a row of the data, and his manager will also have the data present is in his manager ID. Sorry, it's a bit confusing, but when you look at the data, I hope you'll understand. That's why I've tried to keep the data as simple as possible. So let's first explore and understand the scenario. I'm not sure why this is coming as count. I do not want to count. I just want the data to show up as normal as possible. So I'll click on the don't summarize here. Yeah. So as you can see, there is an employee. I hope my screen is visible. I mean, the data is visible, guys.
Yes,
just let me know if I
yes,
can increase the
Anusha,
font
could you
size.
please increase the font size of headers? That's all.
Okay, thanks for that. I've just done that. So first, for understanding the path function, you first have to understand the data that's present here. So now imagine that there's a CEO. Obviously, CEO will not have another manager ID because he's the top of the organization. So his employee ID is 1. Now, there are 2 executives whose manager is a CEO. Matlab, they should be working directly under the CEO, right? So they have got 2 employees. So executive D has employee ID 5, executive C has employee ID 4. And then the rest of the 3 columns, the 3 fields, like you have manager A, B, and 1, each having their own manager ID and each having their own unique employee ID. So when you look at the entire table, you will understand that this table has unique employee IDs across. So this is always unique because for you and for this data, the email ID or the employee ID or the employee name, they are the unique parameter for the entire table. While the manager ID may have duplicates, obviously, because a single person can be a manager for many of the team members, right? So that's the dimension table. So in order to explain Power BI on how it can understand which employee ID has which manager ID, that is something we'll have to use the path function. In order to use path function, we'll have to go to the modeling, and in the dimension that has the employee ID and the manager ID, we'll have to create a new column. So we'll select the new column, give it a nice name, say let's give it path. And we'll write a simple basic definition, which I will explain later once we write the function. So here's my dim table. What I will take is, first, I am giving the actual employee ID that basically the RLS person who is going to, look at the report. That's your employee ID. And then I will be giving the manager ID. So this is my path function. Let's see what happens, how the data looks for this path column. For that, let's go to the table view, and you see, with this you understand that the employee ID who is 6, for example, at the 6th, the last record, for the employee ID who's at the 6th, who has employee ID as 6, his manager is 3, and uska manager is 1. So that is how using path we are explaining Power BI. See, this is my lowest person. This is my manager on top of it, and this is the manager on top of that. So you are giving the complete information. So that is where the path function comes. So once this is created, you will also have to go ahead and create the role, right? For that, what will we do? We'll go to the modeling, we'll go to manage roles. We'll create a new role. We'll just name it as role 1. So again, we are doing the rule, setting up the rule on a dimension table. We'll switch to the DAX editor. It's better, more easy. So there are 2 things that are important, 2 DAX functions that we'll have to use here, guys. So that is, one is path contains and the other is lookup value. So first, what we will do, we will first write the function for the lookup value, and then we will we'll understand what we have done. So in the lookup value, first we will take the path column that we have created, and then we are asking the path column, we are giving the path column the actual email ID of that employee ID. For that, it is our email ID. Sorry, this has to be email. And we are also explaining the RLS function that if someone comes up with this, we should have the user principal name, right? The user principal name has to be mapped to this email ID. That is why our next addition would be the user principal name function here. So our lookup is ready. Now, in this lookup, what we will have to mention is, we'll also have to mention, give it what my employee ID is, what my manager ID is. For that, what I will do, I will just simply give this as the path column that we have created, we will mention that. Okay, sorry, this is not user relationship, this is user principal name. So we will go ahead and save this. Now what we will try to do is, we'll try to create one more measure on which we'll understand how the RLS works. For that, we'll create a new measure. We'll go to, we'll now go to view as. We'll see how it is working. So while we understand now that, let's take an example, guys. So let's take officer 1. His manager ID is 3. That is manager B. So that means if I give, the data as manager B here, then the manager B should be able to view his data and also look at, I'm sorry guys, I'm just repeating myself here again. I hope you are going to follow me. Let's see how this works. So let's go to role and then select the other user. Here I'm going to give as manager A. Okay, I think I have given this wrong. That's why no data is showing up. That means our RLS is working fine. We just have to correct the email ID that I've mentioned here.
Anusha,
So
can
let's
you
go to view
go
as
to table view and copy the email ID, whichever you are typing? That will be very easy.
Yeah, okay. Yes, thanks for that. So I'm copying manager A. Thank you for that. So I'll just go to view as. Okay, again, this is not working. So there is some issue here. Let me just let's check whatever that we have done so far. Let's go to the path formula again and let's understand if there's an issue. So our path formula is the employee ID with the manager ID, which is correct. Both are dimensions. And then let's check the RLS formula. I mean, RLS logic that we put. So there is some issue that over here. It's actually, it has to be the employee ID because the relationship that we have created between both the tables is on the basis of employee ID, right? So now we should hopefully get the right answer. Let us see. So I'll go to view as again. Yeah. Now, as you can see, only managers A data and whoever is working under this manager, that data is only showing up here. So that means, for example, in the real case scenario again, if an Andhra Pradesh's head is coming and looking at this report, he will be looking at the sales that he has done for his under him directly, by him directly. And if he has, say, 5 people working under him, he will also be able to see the 5 people's data because all of them are mapped through the manager ID. Basha, I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, Anusha. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, sorry for that, guys. Yeah, thanks, Basha. So we have discussed only 4 cases, right? Let's move on to the 5th case that someone has raised a question. Again, if you could give me a moment, guys. Yeah, thank you for that. So when we were looking at the, sorry guys, I just have a lot of cough. Sorry for that. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. So let's move ahead with, while we have understood the static RLS, dynamic RLS, and also the path ID, where we went through the hierarchical options. In all such cases, especially the hierarchy, that is directly possible, guys, only if your fact tables has the user ID information available. That means, imagine that we have joined 2 tables, right? We had the fact table and the dimension table. Both the fact and the dimension table had user IDs, correct? But in the real case scenarios, like in few real case scenarios, our fact table will not have the user ID, may not have the user ID. So then what happens? For example, in the screen that I have shared, this is a typical star schema. Imagine like only consider from E to I columns. We have a fact table and we have dim location, dim product, dim date. And all these are mapped by the 1:many relationship. So in this kind of scenario, how do we implement RLS? Because we do not, in the actual star schema, where the fact table is directly related to the dimensions, we do not have any user ID. So then what we have to do is that we'll have to maintain a separate security table, which is our C column. So here I have, in this security, what is happening is that, again, when we go to our 𝐒𝒏𝒄𝒄 business use case. So when you come to imagine Andhra Pradesh, so only Andhra Pradesh's location is present in the fact table. We do not have information and on which location ID is actually related to what user. only when we know that we can do the RLS, right? For this, in this kind of scenarios, we'll have to create and maintain a separate security table, which will have the employee ID or say the email ID, because we need the email ID as well, right? So email ID, employee ID, all the details of the employee along with the location ID. So while this is a star schema,
Hi, Anusha.
this
Can you
security,
please repeat one more time the question statement?
sorry, can you please repeat?
Can you please the scenario one more time? The question
Okay.
basically.
Sure. So in the dynamic RLS that I have discussed so far, what was happening is that the fact table had user ID, correct? In the regular demos that you usually, when you're going through the learning videos, and especially the path ID, you will understand that, I mean, the most examples that people take is the dimension table, the fact table, both have employee ID. So your fact, the major point is your fact table has an employee ID information. But in this case scenario, there is no employee ID present in the fact table. Okay. But somehow one of the dimension that is linked with the fact has something to do with an employee ID. Then what do you do is the case scenario. I hope you understood the scenario now. Can I move ahead?
Yes.
Thank you. So if I go back to this explanation, what we are suggesting is that if you have, in this kind of scenario, if you have to do the dynamic RLS, then you will have to link some table which has employee ID to some information present in the star scheme. So here what I have done, I have used the location ID, because I probably already know that each location has a specific person working there. That is why my security table, which is going to act as my RLS table, has two fields called employee ID and location ID. Okay, so what I will do now, I'll just go to the Power BI report. So I'll move to the data modeling. Here I have considered only 3 tables. So if you see now, first of all, this is our location fact table, right? They don't have user IDs I mentioned, but for the business, we will be creating and maintaining a security table which has employee ID and location ID. So this location ID is belonging to some dimension that is linked with the fact. That is how I was able to create a relationship between location ID and location ID. Got it? And anyway, my location is linked with fact. So in this case scenarios, again, when we go to manage roles, the RLS function, the rule that we use here is still the same. That is, security table's email ID should match with the user principal name. But this is kind of an indirect method, because this security table is the table that we as a Power BI developers have implemented in the semantic model or in the Power BI report layer to handle the RLS. Okay, so what happens is this security table then becomes an overhead for us, where we'll have to run the ETLs, make sure that the security table is always updated, along with the updations of facts and location tables that run on a daily ETL basis. So this because what happens, imagine that you don't update your security table, then probably a person has got transferred to some other location, but his data is not updated here. So that means when he logs into the Power BI report, he will be looking at some older location that he was previously looking at. So that is why the updation and maintaining of the security table becomes a hugely important overhead for us. Okay, so let's move on to the fourth scenario that someone has raised a question upon. So imagine, while I understand that the question that you were asking applies to the condition that I have just explained. That is, if one user has several product IDs, then what happens? Right? Was that your question? Nagireddy? So in this case, what we do, Nagireddy, is that we will not create role for multiple products. What we can probably do is, imagine this again, star schema. We have a location ID. We have a product ID now, correct? So in the security table, we will have, say, several records. We'll have the same employee ID, but it will have 5 records. So 5 records for the 5 product IDs that he is linked to. So that security table creation and maintenance will be something you will have to do. And again, you will have to create relationship between the security table, the DIM product table, probably which has the product ID, and the fact table, where you have to create a relationship between your product master, your dimension, and your fact. So all the relationships that you'll have to give will be in this exclusive security table. I hope that answers your question. Nagiredi? Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, no issue. I got the answer. Thank you. So I think I've tried to cover most of the scenarios, while the 5th use case would be an interesting one where, in this case, there is no hierarchy here. But what if there is also a hierarchy present in this kind of scenario? Then what happens is that, again, you'll have your employee ID, you'll have your manager ID and location. So that means, say, if I am a manager and I have 5 different locations against me, then I'll have 5 records against me in this table. And if there's a person above me, like if that person has, say, 1,000 branches, 1,000 locations, then his employee ID will be having 1,000 records here with 1,000 locations mentioned. So that's how we are mapping a single person to whatever IDs he should have access to. So the major challenge that comes up in this kind of scenarios is how you maintain your security table. How do you put your ETLs, whether it actually meets your organization's requirement or not. I hope that this has given you an overall end-to-end case scenarios for RLS. Now let's move on to Fabric. So what happens once, a quick 2 minutes discussion on what is available in Fabric. So the same set of conditions we can still do on Fabric semantic models. For that, let me open the one of the semantic models that I have deployed in my Power BI. I'll go to skills. So, this is a workspace that I have created where I have a semantic model. So when it comes to the semantic model, you can directly, it's the same functionality that is available for your general Power BI. You just have to go to the edit mode. In this, you will find the manage roles and you can create your roles. But when you want to do the testing cannot be done here. The testing will happen at a separate place where you'll have to go to the semantic model, click on the 3 dots, go to security. In this security, like probably I have created 2 RLS functions before. And if I have to test against one single RLS, then have to, say, for example, LA, I'll have to click on the 3 dots and then do test as role. So for Fabric semantic models, here is where you have to test. Okay. Apart from this, the final RLS comes in as to where you have to add users. So in this case scenario, now there are 2 things that is very important. If, for example, here you in the Fabric semantic model, you will have this thing called members. So simply you can go ahead and add whoever member you want to add against this particular role, and you can add it. The other major interview question that comes up, and something that's very important and very basic for any RLS implementation, is that with regards to workspace access. RLS only works, RLS only works if the user is having a view permission to the workspace. If, for example, a user has anything more than the view access, that is a contributor, member, or owner, even though his his name is added here, he is in the RLS definition, he is in the security table, he will be able to access everything because he has got edit rights to that model, right? So there may be case scenarios where you have done everything, but when you're testing, you're still not able to test the RLS. That could be because your workspace access is, that person's your workspace access is not just a viewer or something more than that. So do cross-check that. I mean, it's a very important point that we all should keep in mind always. Apart from that, say for example, the other most miss that we have in this RLS implementation is you giving a person access to two different roles. So one role has RLS where he is getting restricted. So for Suparna Babu Kele, we have just given Andhra Pradesh. Okay, but there is another role called an admin role where Suparna is also a member. Then what happens is the Power BI will take a superset. So since Suparna has an access to the admin, that plays a major role. So even though he's in the RLS and the RLS roles, he's a member in the RLS, he will still be able to see the entire data because he's an actually admin. Or there is some role which doesn't have any filter and he's able to see everything. So those kind of mistakes need to be avoided. The other most challenging, the most careful thing when we have to do when it comes to Power BI, RLS is how you create relationships between all these different tables that play a role in the RLS. That is, whether you're giving 1:1, 1:many, how you are going to place a major role, and that is where most people miss. So that comes to the end of our discussion, where I think we have covered most of the practical approaches. So that ends my session, and so I hope this was informative for all of you guys. Thank you, Suparna.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you, Anusha. So let's begin Q&A. Meanwhile, just allow me 2 minutes, team. Let me share my screen. Let's start quiz and followed by you can ask questions also. Just a minute. Please bear with me 1 minute. So now, are you all able to see my screen? Can you all confirm?
Yes, Santu. Yes.
Yes. So here, if you are attending from mobiles, please scan this QR code and fill the required details, followed by you need to answer 5 questions. Okay, you need to answer 5 questions. So those who are top 3 from this quiz, our team will reach out to you for giving giveaway from KSR Data Vision. And also, just a minute, let me share this link in the chat box also. Okay, let me share this link in chat box also. Yeah, now you can go ahead and ask your questions, please. One by one.
Hello, this is Priyanko. I did the course with Santosh with the Power BI and those things, so everything is fine. So a little background, like Sampurna, like we have been migrating from SSRS to Power BI, and also like I work in a multi-tenant architecture. So there are like many clients, and we have only one centralized report. So in SSRS, what we have been doing, we are doing the parameterized reports, and based on the certain manufacturer's client ID, we have been able to shoot down to like one client, one at a time, use the same report. Now in Power BI, I already started using like making the workspaces and giving the access to like external users, like 4 or 5 per company. And they are able to see that approach based on the workspace. Is it the best approach, or I can do something else? The only thing I'm asking, because for example, I have company like Campbell, Pepsi, Kind Foods. So basically I have copying the same like the Power BI report and make it like, oh, this should be for Campbell. I'm putting in the Campbell folder, limiting the data sets and everything. And then the users getting the access. Basically, I put their external IDs to that particular workspace, and they are able to visualize this report. Is it the best approach, or what's the standard approach, like industry-based approach? I can do it.
Yeah, Anusha, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there, but I kind of missed the conversation in the midway. I just got disconnected in between. So
Okay,
while
I can repeat.
startingly, Priyanka, I understood that you are moving from SSRS to Power BI. So there are several reports in SSRS, and you're trying to segregate those into Power BI reports and putting them in different workspaces, is it?
Yes, for example, we have a revenue report. Just as an example, we have a revenue report in SSRS. Okay. And how we used to run that report, like based on, like, say, for example, I have like 5 clients like Campbell, Pepsi, Kind Foods, Smuckers, etc., etc. So every of the clients has like a client ID. For example, Campbell is 96, someone is 97, 98, 99. So now when we put in the SSRS, it's easy. Okay, and that SSRS report is connected to the UI, and just like we have to make sure that we put the parameter client ID is equal to 96. So
So
only
you
Campbell
are
is.
saying, so that means you're saying I'm just trying to understand what you're saying when you're talking about different clients. So are you saying that you as a tech company have created a
Correct.
standard SSRS report and using the same report for different clients' data, is it?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, from the data side, we are good. We have like a centralized schema-based reports and all those things. We are good on that. So
Okay.
till now, like till 3 months back, we were using the SSRS and the clients were able to see only their data and all those things. Now, when we are migrating to Power BI, based on my knowledge and all those study materials and everything from KSR, what I did, I created like new workspaces, for one workspace for Campbell, one for Pepsi, one for Kind Foods, and giving those data, like, yes, of course, it's a Campbell data in the Campbell workspace, Pepsi data in the Pepsi workspace, and added those users, external users in those workspace, and they are able to view the report. Yeah, of course, they have the view access. So is it the best approach, or I can do something like one report can be done to all the other clients based on their client ID and something? That was my question.
Yeah, again, I think RLS would definitely play a role here, but I'm afraid that you shouldn't be doing it, because when you go with RLS, somehow all the clients' data should be present in single data model.
No,
So
we
I don't
already
think that's possible,
no,
right? You maintain
no,
it
we
in
already
different models, right?
Yeah, we already verified that. We already
Yeah,
verified from
you
the
can't.
data, like from our fact table and from our data warehouse, that when we are using like basically direct query output, so based on the store proc, we are already make sure that only we are doing the particular data for a particular client.
Yeah, so I think then the different workspaces definitely works, because you're dealing with client data and you're saying that you do it in a single AD authentication, Priyanka. So it's like one single under one single M365. You're putting all your clients, right? So
Yes,
in
that's
that
correct.
case, definitely different workspaces very much required.
Okay, and what could have been the other approach? Like, is it the perfect industry best approach, or there can be other approach we can do it?
So, but with my personal experience, it is definitely good. I think it's a good approach, but I am still not understanding how the different clients are accepting the fact that you're putting, you have single AD authentic. I mean, your single M365 for all these clients. That is something I have a question upon. Like, because usually it's like each account has to have its own Power BI, right? Its own
Right.
tenant, right? How are different? I'm not able to understand how are different clients coming under one single tenant. So that is actually my question. But again, if this is what it is, yeah, then different workspaces is the best approach.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Anusha.
Yeah, but yeah, I think we should definitely connect sometime
Okay.
to
Thank you.
discuss more on
Sure.
this. Yeah,
I will send my invitation in the LinkedIn. Appreciate
okay.
that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, any
thank you,
more
Anusha.
questions?
Yes,
So yeah, guys.
in dynamic row level security, we can use the data modeling.
What do you mean by data modeling here? Is it like the semantic model you're talking about?
No, not semantic model. Mostly, generally, we have to use the dynamic row level security, right? In dynamic
Yeah.
row level security, we can use the data modeling.
So again, I'm just trying to understand what data modeling you are saying here, because
No,
data
no,
modeling is a very generic term, right? So can you
yes,
just
yes.
give me? So you are saying
Recently,
you have imported a Power BI report. I mean, you are running a Power BI report in import mode. You have done.
while
You
we're
have.
creating the dynamic role level security,
Uh,
recently I attended one of the interview. The interviewer
okay.
asked, in dynamic role level security, we can use the data modeling. This is the question from the interviewer. So I just
We
asked,
should use data modeling. I would say we should use data modeling. We require that. Now,
okay,
see, because we need this data modeling, I am understanding, is like a set of tables
no,
which
no,
are
no,
either
no, no, like that.
related with each other. Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
It's
okay. What
required.
type of the data modeling we have to use?
Star schema is the most best approach. I mean, star schema works really well for dynamic RLS.
Okay, okay, understand.
Viresh.
Yeah, hi Anusha.
Hi.
So I have already pasted the question or the
Yeah.
chart.
Okay.
Like,
If you are embedding a
okay.
report into customer, how
Anusha,
do you
I'll take
handle?
this
Yeah.
question. Anusha, I'll take this
Yeah,
question.
sure. Go ahead.
So,
Yeah.
Viresh, are you? I mean to say you are embedded your Power BI reports into the one of the web app, custom app, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. For
Correct.
that, you no need to enforce any other rules on the custom web
Correct.
app. You can directly enforce whatever the rules in native web app. Currently, actually, one of the use case where I am working, so the same kind of thing in custom app, my reports are embedding. So there is no need to enforce any rules on the custom app. I mean custom web application. You can directly enforce your row level securities in native Power BI that automatically would applicable to custom app or web app.
Now, on that also, like adding to what Suparna is saying, there are two things here. See, if you are using Power BI, if you're using Microsoft tools and your authentication to that particular app is still an M365 ID, then it's like a direct RLS that comes up, as what he has mentioned. But
Yes.
there may be few case scenarios where you have built some app which is outside of the Microsoft, right? You would definitely do that. So where what happens is that embed code gives you there is for again you'll have to go to the concept called app owns data or user owns data. If it's user owns data, it's pretty much straightforward. Your user ID passes into the RLS as what he has mentioned. But if you're going for app owns data, then there is a slightly different approach because the app owns data works on a service principal authentication. So it doesn't know which user is coming and looking at the report. For that, there is a particular logic that's available in the Microsoft website as well, which clearly mentions the input parameters when you're calling the API. That is like the username and the role. So those two parameters have to be passed in order to get this RLS implemented in that kind of reports. I hope that answers or gives you more clarity on this question, Viresh.
Yeah. I understand. You mean if it is a native application, depends on the Android,
Correct.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
I got it. Thank you. Thank you, Super.
Any more question, guys?
Just a minute, Anusha. Let me check in the chart. So 3 people are hand raised. Priyanka, okay, it's already cleared. Next is Shifa. Sorry for that. Shifa, do you have any question? And if you are unable to unmute, please share your question in the chat. Okay, fine. Okay, so with that, so thank you all for attending this session today. So our team will reach out to top 3 winners. So please stay in touch with NDAC. And there is one more announcement. In next month, there is one event is happening, which is by Microsoft Fabric. The event name is Data Days. Okay, so where you will get, so every communities in India or across the globe, everyone is conducting their own this Data Days, Fabric Data Days events. So in that, if you attend, you will get a chance to get 100% free vouchers for PL300, DP600 and DP700. Stay tuned, NDAC all social media channels. Please follow our WhatsApp channel. Please follow our YouTube channel. So stay in touch with us. So with that, we'll stop here. Thanks you so much for joining, and thank you so much for accepting my invitation, Anusha. So let's meet in next event. Thank you all. Have a happy weekend.
Yeah, thanks everyone.